Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. Today, we'll find out more about apprenticeships and all of the wonderful things you can gain from your apprenticeships and working with younger people. Before I hand over to our presenter, I just wanted to remind everyone that today's session will be recorded and shared online later on today. The webinar will include a presentation for approximately 45 minutes, followed by a Q&A at the end. Please use the chat function to submit all of your questions, and we'll make sure we answer as many of those as possible. I also would like to thank Hexagon, who are sponsoring today's webinar. They're a global leader in digital reality solutions and make manufacturing smarter. So if you want to find out more about what they do, please feel free to visit their website, hexagonmi.com. Without further ado, I will now hand over to Mary, who will lead today's webinar. Over to you.
Thank you, Galina, and good morning, everyone. And thank you for joining us today for Demystifying Apprenticeships, our employer workshop. My name is Mary Cloake. I'm a skills advisor with Buckinghamshire Business First, and I joined Buckinghamshire Business First about a year ago to specifically help deliver the Skill Up Bucks project. And I'll probably just give a little bit more information about that at the end. And hope that I can persuade all of you who've taken part in the webinar today to sign up to that project. My background has been a lot in the voluntary sector, empowering young people to think about their future next steps, whether that is an apprenticeship or whether it's going to college or whether it's straight into the workplace. And also have some years working in executive search and recruitment and HR. So that's my background, and I hope that by the end of the 45 minutes you'll be fully enlightened as to what apprenticeships are all about, no fear about them, and you'll all go forth and take one on. So without further ado, I hope everybody can see the slides. And for some reason, the first slide is not.
Yeah, Mary, if you just click on the screen and then it'll exit you, you can control it.
There we go. So you say, it should still be sharing. I don't know why it's not. I have clicked.
There we go.
There we go. Right, there we go. We're off. So 100,000 employers use apprenticeships, and there's been quite a lot of research done as to why they do that. And the stats speak for themselves. You can see there very easily that 83% of employers, of those surveyed, use apprenticeships to fill skills gaps. And of that, 92% say improves motivation, satisfaction. Great stats there on productivity and on improving product or service. And actually 80% say it boosts the bottom line. So lots of positives there. We'll go on to explain why, because what is an apprenticeship? So it's a job with training. It's based on a set of standards, and it's delivered by an approved apprenticeship training provider. It's funded, but it's quite important to point out that in itself, it's not a qualification. An apprentice can gain qualifications along the way, but just because you are an apprentice doesn't mean to say you have a qualification. I'm sure you've all heard of the way that they work. It's 80% on the job learning, and about 20%, 6 hours per week, is off the job learning, and it has an assessment process. So two routes to being one, to take it into apprenticeship. One is as a new job. You as an employer can create an apprenticeship job in your organisation. You can look outside the organisation to find that new person to join your company, or they can be an existing employee. So if you've got somebody and you think, well, actually they would be better on an apprenticeship to go and gain some skills, qualifications, and add to your business, then you can use them to develop the skills of your existing team. And it's really, that's the exciting thing about it, because if you perhaps take somebody from within your organization, you know that they understand a little bit about your culture, they know how you work, they know the people in the organization. It can be a real employee motivator to have their employees say, hey, do you want to, let's put you on an apprenticeship to gain those extra skills. Can also be a great way for an experienced employee to get a formal qualification in a specialist area. So as we go through, you'll see that apprenticeships exist in practically every sector of the employment sectors that are available. And it can also be that if you've got somebody who's, you can see that they've got drive and motivation, and you want to hang on to them into their business, the apprenticeship can just be that carrot that will keep them in your organisation. So we're going to look at the process, what it looks like. Six fairly straightforward steps there, from job description, matching the standards, finding a provider, funding, getting that vacancy registered, which is obviously only relevant if you're going to go outside of your organisation to find one, and then actually going through the recruitment. For those of you that are HR experts, this will be fairly obvious. It's really, 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 really key, and we know that it's difficult to recruit at the moment. So if you're putting up a job as an apprenticeship, make sure it's absolutely clear what the duties of that individual are going to be, what their responsibilities are, perhaps what the skills that you're looking for, experience, qualifications and behaviours. Spend quite a lot of time really thinking about what that job description looks like, because if you're not clear about it, then there's no way that the person who you're hoping to take on as apprenticeship can understand it. And the whole experience will be enhanced if you've got that job description, the duties, what you want them to do, absolutely clear up front. So apprenticeship standards, this is absolutely key, and it is, as it says on the tin, that statement has been lifted from the Institute for Apprenticeships and Technical Education. You can all read it, but just for clarity, it's a short and concise document. It describes the knowledge, skills and behaviours that somebody needs to be competent in the occupation's duties. It does identify any qualifications that must be passed and how it will align with professional recognition if applicable. So that is one of the key features of an apprentice. They have to have these apprenticeship standards. Again, we've probably all heard of the varying levels of apprentices, entry level right down there at the bottom, right through now. You can study to be a doctor at level 8. Most people are looking around level 3, level 4, but I think it's reassuring to know that you can that there is a whole qualifications framework ranging from entry level through to level 8. And you can see there that they've actually aligned them with the old HNC, HND diplomas that some of us will be familiar with. So they're at level 3, A level, T level is now known in the apprenticeship world as an advanced apprenticeship. The good old HND, HNC are being phased out, and they are now higher apprenticeship and foundation degree, and even up to degree apprenticeship. So that's very worthwhile noting at what level, when you're starting to go through the apprenticeship process, what level your apprentice will be at. So this is quite useful. I think if we look at the Institute, and I hope the link will work, that we can actually go on to the Institute for Apprenticeships for Technical Education. So this is where it's really useful just to have a play around with. You can search for apprenticeships. If we take a look, and you can put in there, so what should we put in? Something like, let's put digital. She says not even being able to spell it, but I-G-I-T-A-L. Immediately it comes up with anything with the word digital in. Let's just go for the first one because it's there. There's a really detailed site, but really easy to read. In fact, I've happened to have clicked on one that says, why is this apprenticeship not ready for delivery? But it will be, you can see there, it gives the occupational standard. It will talk about what the summary of that sort of role. If we scroll on down, it's the different fields that typical jobs include within a digital forensic apprenticeship. It actually details, although it looks, try not to get confused by the fact it's got all these digits down the side, but it's got the duties that could be included in there. It will talk about the knowledge, key knowledge, and then it will talk about the professional recognition and talks about the English and maths, which I'll also talk about in a little while. So that's, again, yes, when we will be sharing the slides. I think somebody just asked that question in the chat. And the only thing now is how to get back. I've got to get back out of this one, haven't I? Megan, can you just, there we go, close.
Bear with me. Stop touching, and then I will
Okay.
get you back. Now, if you click on the screen.
There we go. So apprenticeship structure. So once you've gone through that whole thing of deciding what the duties, what the job, what the description, experience, you can look at what type of apprenticeship structure you're going to go for. So there's two types of training: off-the-job training, which is delivered by the training provider, and that, as you can see, covers the knowledge, the skills and behaviours set out in the apprenticeship standard, which you will have got from the website that we were just looking at. They must have 6 hours per week with the training provider if you're going for off-the-job training. So as it says there, you can take place online, at the workplace, at a college, university or training provider. And again, within Buckinghamshire, we've got the Bucks College Group that offers a number of apprenticeship opportunities as a training provider. And when you're looking at the different type of apprentice you want, it will list as well. It will tell you what the providers are. Sometimes it's a bit off-putting because you look and it says they're based in Birmingham or Exeter or something, but actually they are the provider that is able to provide local provision. So if you're looking at the off-the-job training, there's flexibility in delivery. It can be 1 day a week, it can be part of a working day, or if it doesn't suit you to have that, your apprentice going out for a day a week or part of a working day, they can do it in blocks of time. So they might go off for a week or a fortnight, do some training and then come back. And obviously the flip side of that is doing on-the-job training, which is delivered entirely, well, 80% of it is delivered by the employer. A lot of it is experiential, supervision, coaching and mentoring, and then they will gain experience in all aspects of the job. And the key thing, I think, the positive there is that it's to meet the needs of your business, and you would have that discussion with the training provider as to whether it was needed to be better to be off the job training or on the job training. So you as the employer, what do you need to do? I think it goes without saying, a safe working environment. As with any employee that's coming into your business, an induction which explains the relevant policies and procedures for being in your business. Making sure that the student apprentice has the opportunities to develop their technical skills within your industry. And you must guarantee that they'll get their 20% off the job training with a training provider during their normal working hours. So you can't really expect them to work, go and do that in the evenings or at weekends unless you have discussed it with them beforehand as to what their working hours are. And they're not just a cheap employee, they really are an apprentice that needs to be adhering to the standard with your support, because at the end of the day, it's your time, it's your business that's going to benefit from it. So providing that support to ensure that by the end of it that they succeed is obviously paramount. And you can see at the bottom it says their employers need to have a signed apprenticeship agreement, an apprentice commitment statement from the learner and the training provider. So you as the employer have those safeguards that if it's set up properly, those are the commitments that you have from the learner and the training provider. It says there English and maths. and it's key. I was reading or talking to a provider recently who had experience where the business didn't particularly want to take on an apprentice because they thought, well, their English and maths won't be very good. As the employer, you need to allow the apprentice to study for maths and English qualifications within their normal working hours. You can see there it says studying for maths and English is not counted as part of the 20% off the job training. So if they do need support with English and maths, that is, excuse me, in addition to the 20% that you're allowing them or giving them to go off and be with the training provider. So English and maths are absolutely key, that they can improve that. The apprenticeship agreement we've touched on. So it gives the details of what you're going to do for the apprentice. So fairly obvious things. It talks about the length of employment, the training program, the working conditions, and the qualifications included, if any. At every step of the way, the Apprenticeship Institute has provided support. So there you can see that there's an apprentice agreement template that you can use if you don't want to write your own. And if it's the first time you've taken on an apprentice, it's probably a good time to use that template to make sure that it's you know, as it says on the tin. Three-way, yes, as is again the apprentice, the training provider, and you, the employer. It must include the training program and schedule, and it again, I can only reiterate what the oh gosh, what's happened? Something's happened to the screen, Megan. Sorry.
Hi Mary, what do you need?
Sorry, it's there we go.
All good.
It suddenly flicked down.
Oh no.
Didn't want to see the chat and it suddenly flipped up, so it threw me. Sorry everybody. So yes, the training program and schedule, what's offered, and again you can download from the apprenticeship commitment statement template. At the end of the apprenticeship, you have to have the endpoint assessment. So this will identify how the apprenticeship should be tested against the standard. It might include a practical assessment, it might include an interview, could even include a project, could be written and or multiple choice tests and a presentation, and it is delivered by the endpoint assessment organisation, which again is made clear from the apprenticeship website. And at the end of all that, they get a certificate, and they will get the certificate on your behalf. These days now there are gradings, pass, credit and distinction, and it's really positive now that apprenticeships must include recognition by a professional body. So that's just talking more about the apprenticeship structure. And then again, we've got another link here, which I very nervously will go and talk to. The government has got a really useful, helpful and very well populated Find an Apprenticeship training website. So if we click onto that, we'll accept the cookies. Find apprenticeship training if you're an employer. As with all good government websites, it says start now. And again, it's a little bit similar to the other site that we were looking at, but if you wanted to find an apprenticeship training course, let's put marketing in this time and see what we can come up with. Can't even spell marketing. Sorry about this, guys. And we perhaps want to do a level 3. Apply the filters. Then it will now start to tell you, so you've got the marketing assistant level 3, digital marketeer level 3, advertising media executive level 3, for example. So if we just went into marketing assistant, it tells you it's typically 18 months. it's sales, marketing, procurement. It talks about the funding that's available for it, other jobs that it's known as. Then you can even go down. So if we put in, for example, the postcode for, well, if I put in Buckinghamshire, it will show you all the providers that can support and be the training provider. So this is what I was saying earlier, you sometimes get thrown by the fact that it talks about somebody that's based in Birmingham or Exeter, and you've even got one here, Cambridge Marketing College. But a lot of the learning as well can be online. They haven't necessarily got to be travelling miles, but there's all the providers that could support that, or say that they could support a marketing assistant level 3 within Buckinghamshire. And you can play around with that for any of the examples that you want to get to. Sorry, Meg, I might just have to ask you to get me back to...
Don't click anything.
Okay.
And then click on the screen.
Okay, thanks, Megan. So that was finding there. Things to consider when choosing your provider. Absolutely key. They're all Ofsteded as well. So in those early discussions, how well they communicate with you about the training. Look at reviews, what have other employers said about them, and absolutely critically, what apprenticeships say about them. And you can see there at the bottom, it talks about the Ofsted report, so you can look to see how they've been Ofsteded as a training provider. I literally touched on funding a little bit a couple of slides back, and there it just sets out non-levy payers, and I'll explain a little bit more about the levy in a minute. But non-levy payers pay just 5% towards the cost of training and assessing an apprentice. It's known as co-investment, but the government pays the rest up to the funding band maximum. So if remember when we were looking at one of the slides, it says funding maximum 15,000, 27,000. The government will pay that, but you as a non-levy payer will pay just 5%. You pay the training provider, and again you agree with the training provider what that payment schedule looks like. And if you actually, to qualify it even further, if you employ less than 50 employees, which I'm thinking probably most of you do, the government will pay 100% of the apprenticeship training costs up to the funding band maximum for apprentices who are 16 to 18 or 19 to 24. If they've got special educational needs or got a care plan in place. So obviously an apprentice can be any age, but if they fall within those two brackets, then the government does pay 100%. And again, it goes without saying, if you exceed the funding band maximum for some reason, you'll need to pay all the additional costs. But on balance, it should all be paid within that funding that the standard says it will cost to train that individual. So you then need to set up a digital apprenticeships service account with the National Apprenticeship Service. And you reserve the funds in the account before starting the apprentice. So that's, again, you apply for the funds, they're into the account. Again, just a little clarifier there, you can give your training provider permission to reserve funds on your behalf. But in order to set your apprenticeship service account up, you need to know which apprenticeship training course the apprentice will be doing, when they're going to start, and that doesn't stop you from, before them starting, changing the apprenticeship date and even the training course. So it could be that you think you've got it all set up, but there is a little bit of flexibility built in before you actually start. A little bit more on apprenticeship service accounts. Again, fairly clear, they can be reserved for 3 months. So you don't, it's not indefinite, but they can be for 3 months after the apprenticeship is planned to start. You can make up to 10 reservations per year, and the National Apprenticeship Service will monitor the number of reservations used by employers, they may pause funding to ensure that the programme remains affordable. And you could be, yes, there's a couple of other points there. Funds transfer from levy paying employers. So there are, when we're talking about levy payers, some of the big companies, some of them regard it as a tax, but they pay the levy and they may not use all their money. So it is possible as a smaller employer to apply for the levy transfer. And again, that's all explained through the National Apprenticeship Scheme as to how to access funding if you're short, but there's a big company that hasn't used all its levy money, because they have to use it within 2 years or they lose it. Here we go, a little bit more on that. So employers who pay the apprenticeship levy can pledge to transfer any used funds to another employer using the apprenticeship survey. So this would help them to pay for apprenticeship training and assessment. And again, it's all on the site. You can find employers who may want to transfer funds if they're not using it. And a levy payer can transfer a maximum of 25% of their levy funds. But some of these big companies have absolutely masses of funding. I mean, 25% of you know, £1, £2, £3 million is plenty of money that they can then support a smaller company. Wages, yes, you do have to pay your apprentice. That's the national minimum wage for apprentice. A lot of employers will pay more than that, but that's the minimum of what you have to pay. So you can see that they are slightly different to the non-apprentice national wages. And they actually, April 2023, sorry, do need to check there whether there's going to be a change in that from April 2023. So apprentices there, again, entitled to the apprentice rate of their age either under 19 or age 19 and over in their first year of apprentice. So yes, there will be a review coming up in 2023. So we'll make sure that this slide's been revised before it gets sent out to reflect what's happening in 2023. So step 5, when we talked about those 6 steps, we're now up to registering our vacancy. Various ways you can do it. You can either use it doing the recruit and apprentice service, which again, that link is live. You can obviously use your own website. You can use social media. You can use the training provider may have some ideas on where you can find an apprentice. Basically, you just need to use all the tools that you use for recruiting any member of staff. You can use, plus using the recruit and apprentice service, if that makes sense, because there will be people who are specifically only looking to do an apprenticeship, serve an apprenticeship. They wouldn't necessarily be coming to you if you're just advertising a normal post. So again, I think I talked about it earlier on, when advertising, be as clear as possible so that candidates can quickly understand whether the apprenticeship's right for them, so that they don't waste time filling in forms, you don't waste time sifting through applications that aren't right for you. Your HR team can manage the recruitment process. And again, if you're establishing a good relationship with your training provider, they can manage it on your behalf. A few pointers there. Your apprentice must be 16 or over. They mustn't not already be in full-time education, and they must be living in England. And again, I mentioned about using social media. There are some companies that will do an open day. In fact, I've heard of one fairly recently in Aylesbury, a kitchen cabinet making firm. They actually held an open day, and 5 or 6 people went along to talk about how they could become an apprentice, be appointed, meet the employers, and started the process that way. And of course, yes, I didn't mention, but fairly obvious, using careers events to find an apprentice as well. There's the website. Employers hire an apprentice. And what I should probably mention is there's an amazing website called Amazing Apprenticeships. There's an employer section on there, and it's actually got a wonderful guide called How to Recruit Your First Apprentice. That's really a sort of whistle stop, well, not too whistle stop, because it's a mixture of quite a lot of facts and figures, but a fairly light view of how to go about and what an apprenticeship is. And I think that's as really much as I want to say. And thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Mary. That's been very insightful in terms of that you've covered a lot of content. We did receive one question during the presentation when you were sharing the government's website about finding a training provider. It was noted that the qualification level started at level 2 and there was nothing for level 1. Is there a reason for that, or is there anything you can tell us more about?
I will need to check. Thank you for the question. Something that John Browning and I were discussing earlier this week, and I will check, but I am fairly sure that level 1, because people have to stay in school till they're 17 now, that there are very few level 1 apprenticeships around, but I will double check the reasoning why. It may just be on the no, I'm dithering. I'm going to say I don't have 100% the answer. I will find out, but I'm pretty sure that although the framework is there from level 1 to level 8, there aren't actually any level 1 apprenticeships anymore. But I will check, because yes, as Sharon has said in the chat, level 1 was CSE 3 grade 3 and below, which is. Well, yeah.
Could I just jump onto this, Mary?
Oh, Rob, yes.
Yeah, thank you very much. Right,
yeah.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Rob Evans. I've actually just joined Bucks Business First today or yesterday.
So you've got a wealth of background in careers, haven't you?
That's right. Well, I was a careers leader in Highcrest Academy for 5 years, at which point I worked with apprenticeship providers and actually placed some people from students from Highcrest into apprenticeships. I've got a couple in Johnson & Johnson, somebody went into Unilever. I know the regime for SMEs is a bit different, but I think the reason why you find it very hard to see a level 1 apprenticeship is that the level of skills at level 1 are basic. So people will be doing functional skills courses, things like that, because at that stage, their level of maths or English is not going to be really enough to get them effectively learning as an apprentice at level 1. So really, if you look at the level 2, that's really where things come in, where they're going to be meaningful for a meaningful experience for people.
Thanks, Rob.
That's great. Thank you both. That's been very helpful. We haven't got any other questions at the moment. We will let people have another minute or two to submit those. But just as a reminder, those slides and all of the links that Mary shared with you today will be available, and you'll receive a copy in your email later on today or early tomorrow. So the information will be there.
Galina, may I just mention about the Skill Up Bucks project, which I alluded to at the very beginning?
Yes, absolutely.
So, Skill Up Bucks is a project that was it came into being just as the UK was leaving Brexit. So it's funded by the European social funding that we have. It is very much aimed at SMEs across Buckinghamshire, where we're looking to see how we can support you to take on an apprenticeship, actually perhaps get involved with inviting students into your business to maybe for half a day, maybe for an hour, so they can find out about the world of work. Maybe you would like to be a mentor, maybe offer a challenge activity. There's a whole variety of what we're trying to do. As I think we're all aware, there's a skills shortage, and it is, as it says on the tin, Skill Up Bucks. But in order to do that, we need support from employers to actually address those concerns that they have, where they say young people in particular aren't work ready. And if we can get more young people closer to the employers in whatever shape or form that takes, that would be absolutely awesome. It's a long-going project. I'm so pleased that Rob has now joined us, because we've got a a large number of companies that have offered to get engaged with the project, and we're now going to be actually working out how to do that. But for all of you on the call today, in the next couple of days, we will be sending out what's called the employer registration form for Skill Up Bucks. And in taking part of this video webinar today, actually counts that we have given you some skills training, which is fab, but we've also given you the opportunity to think about how you might conceivably engage more with young people to improve their knowledge of the world of work. So I guess my plea is, as we come to the end of this webinar, is when the form comes, it's fairly pre-populated. It just confirms what your business is. It gives you a few options. We will only identify that you attended the skills training today, but what we would love, and I think that Rob will probably be contacting you over the next couple of months, to just dig a little bit deeper and say, hey, could you perhaps go and give a talk in a school? Only once, but something about your business. Please, 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 could you sign it and send it back to us so that we don't have to chase you, because we really, really appreciate your support on Skilling Up Bucks. And really appreciate you coming on the call today to find out about apprenticeships, and very happy to talk to any of you individually if you want to find out more or just have a chat about skills opportunities for your employees.
Thank you, Mary. We do have two more questions. One is a follow-up from Sharon based on the conversation we had earlier around qualifications. So Sharon is saying that she has met her would-be apprentice who has attained level 3. Does she need to get him to level 4 GCSE in order to be able to hire him as an apprentice?
Again, because I'm going to get the answer for you, Sharon, because I don't want to misadvise you on the call, because probably should have clarified during the webinar that John Browning is the one that wakes up breathing, sleeping, eating, running apprenticeships in every shape or form for Bucks Business First, and sadly he couldn't be on the call today. So anything slightly beyond the remit of the video of the webinar, I would prefer to go and get the definitive answer and come back to you. So if I send the answer back via Galina, Sharon, will that be okay?
Yes, we can definitely share that.
Okay.
We do have another question which comes in from one of our listeners. How can we find an office admin, and what level would be most appropriate?
So that comes under that conversation of you deciding what do you want that person to do. If you sat down and thought the blueprint for somebody coming into the business, I mean, are they going to have support? I mean, you can't really leave them on their own, so they would need mentoring, training, all those factors about what's the size of your business, what level of responsibility are you looking to them to develop towards, are all those questions that you would need to discuss. So that's where, if you go on to the Find an Apprenticeship website and key in office admin, it will give you the standards. So if you click in office, it'll say that it exists at level 3, it's at level 4, it's at level 5, and you can look and think, well, actually no, this is where we want to do it. And probably I'm guessing if you're taking on a younger person, you'll set the level lower, but actually if they turn out to be good, they can go on to do higher levels as well. And that's the wonderful thing, because of course you can train them in the way of your business. So when it says how can we find an office admin, if you key in administration or office administration to the Find an Apprenticeship site, that will throw up the duties, responsibilities, and if you're actually trying to find the person that you want to come and be the apprentice, on the slide which Galina will share, it'll talk about either advertising it directly, getting it out there on social media, all those ways that you would look to find an apprentice. If you're You can also even go to the heads of careers within your nearby school, because again, your apprentice has got to be able to get to the place of work. But actually, heads of careers in schools are quite keen that they will know within their sixth forms, and I think Rob would concur with this, that, as he said, they'd placed a couple of people at Johnson & Johnson. So if an employer came along to them and said, oh, we're looking for an office admin apprentice, they will know which of their sixth formers could well be looking to be an apprentice. Would you agree with that, Rob? Is he still there? Is he gone? He's gone.
Myself, yes, there we are. Right. No, absolutely. Yeah, I think schools are gradually becoming more aware of the possibilities that apprenticeships offer, and I think for a lot of students that can be better than other alternatives. You know, maybe going to university now, maybe not quite such a good deal with the amount of debt you end up with. You know, the fact that you might not get the on-the-job training experience to actually consolidate theoretical learning, and you know, if you can do something that means you don't end up with a lot of debt, that's got to be a good thing. So yeah, absolutely. I think schools are becoming much more open to talking about it. I know that the school I used to work at has now got some people who are in the school who are now apprentices, who are now talking about their experiences. So that's a great thing, because I think that historically apprenticeships, people didn't, you know, they're very new now. Years ago, they were very, very different. And I think there's now, the whole regime is very, very different. And so people are still maybe thinking about apprenticeships as they were perceived maybe 20 years ago, and wrapping up with work creation schemes and things like that. They've got very bad publicity back in the 80s and 90s, or the, you know, the apprentice who came and just made tea for 3 years. That's not what happens now. It's a very structured, formal process, which is meaningful and ends up with empowered and skilled employees for the business. So it's got to be a good thing for businesses, I think. The other point I was noticing in the chat was that somebody asked about level 3 and level 4. You said you had somebody who was at level 3 anyway. Level 3 would be A level. So I think there may be confusion here between the actual qualification level and the apprenticeship level. So if somebody has already got level 3 qualifications, that means they've already got A levels, and therefore they wouldn't need to do GCSE maths because they've already got the A level in maths. So a level 3 qualification is effective in A level. If you get, so the level, the GCSE level and the apprenticeship level are not exactly the same. You don't, the level 4 GCSE. Yeah. So I think there was just a little bit of conflation between two separate but confusingly similarly named ideas there.
So GCSE level 3. So that's different to the apprenticeship level 3. Yeah,
that's right. Yeah.
Yes. Where Sharon said he has GCSE level 3 is very different to the apprenticeship level 3, which is, as you say,
that's right. Yeah. I think the purpose of the slide was to show you roughly where the qualifications fitted in. But you can't apply a level 4 GCSE to a level 4 apprenticeship, because level 4 apprenticeship is actually equivalent to the first year of a degree.
Yes, yes, good point. It could confuse you if you're not in the world of education. So yes, yeah, yes, which puts it in apprenticeship level 1, GCSE level 3. Yes.
I just saw Angela, sorry, just put a note in saying schools have an issue trying to point the students in the right direction. I'm on a mission to try and change that.
Absolutely. And I think, again, reiterating that this is going to be so exciting. The Skill Up Bucks, yes, it officially finishes by the end of this year, but actually we're just really on a mission now. We're at least 270 businesses from across Buckinghamshire. If every one of them offered something by way of engagement with our young people in the schools, just, you know, to talk about some aspect of their business and how they can get engaged, and even what you're looking for when you bring an employee into the workplace, and actually understanding what, I mean, for me, it's always amazing how young people will have a parent or carer who works, but they don't necessarily know what that world of work looks like. So I've been going to some careers fairs over the last year or so with the Skill Up Bucks programme, and that divide still between what young people, that lovely world of school and education and being with their mates, and then actually having to break out into the world of work is still quite a terrifying experience. They don't really know what it means to go to work. So the more we can bridge that gap, Angela, yes, we're on a mission to do that as well.
That is great. Thank you very much to everyone. Special thanks to Rob, Megan, and Mary for their time and effort today. I think it's been a very insightful presentation, and I'm sure people have a lot of takeouts. I also want to thank all of our attendees for joining us today. Before you log off, if we could please ask you to fill out our poll. Your feedback is really important. It always helps us improve things. So please take a moment to just share your thoughts. Finally, we do have a lot more events coming up this year, so keep an eye on our website, and we hope to see you again soon. Have a lovely rest of your day, and we'll speak to you soon.